Hello there. It's me, Matt, again. Here on a Monday, post Super Bowl Sunday. Sorry, New England Patriots fans, but you lost to Nick Foles. Yeah, a little depressing, but I'm not here to talk about the Super Bowl. I'm here to talk about the lone release that came out this Super Bowl weekend, which is Winchester. Winchester is a horror film, Mirren and Jason Clarke, which are two pretty maybe less or so Jason Clarke, but two pretty prestigious, well-known actors who have been in a lot of acclaimed movies. So two interesting actors to be in a horror movie. But the reason I was kind of excited for this movie, even with the lack of marketing and fanfare that it got, was the involvement of the Spirig brothers, who both directed and rewrote the screenplay. I believe the original script was written by Tom Vaughn, but I really like the Spirit Brothers personally. I know they're kind of lower key directors, not a duo that people really talk about a lot. But I really loved their second film, Daybreakers, which was released a few years ago. It was this kind of small budget vampire movie, but even with its small budget, is able to create this really involving universe and had some really interesting sci-fi elements, and it kind of mixed kind of the horror and the science fiction and the drama very well. And I also like their film Predestination, which also stars Ethan Hawke, a very interesting kind of high concept science fiction movie that uses time travel in a cool way. They also directed Jigsaw, which came out last year, and you may or may not have seen my thoughts on either Screen Geek or the radio show, but I thought it was just okay. I thought the traps were a little lacking creativity. I do think it was the best looking Saw movie, and it had a more cinematic quality. And I enjoyed the movie as a whole, even though, like I said, the traps weren't quite there. So I think when I saw their names involved in Winchester, I actually became really excited. And then Friday hit. The movie didn't screen Thursday night before for critics, and the reviews were really bad. And I didn't really read any reviews before. I just kind of saw Rotten Tomatoes. I'm like, oh wow, I believe it when I saw it had like a 16%. So my expectations are lowered. And after seeing the film, I, I partially can understand why the reviews are so bad, but at the same, I think this movie is more of a frustrating mixed bag. Is it as bad as the 16% score indicates? No, but this really isn't a good movie, or a movie that works uh, the way it should. But first, I'll talk about the positives. I think the Spirit Brothers are good craftsmen, and there's some moments where they're really able to nail what they're going for, which is this kind of gothic, old school horror movie. I think the opening of the film is very effective. Uh, Everything from the way the shots are framed to the moonlight kind of creeping in through the windows. It creates a really interesting atmosphere. And I also like the scenes that follow, which focus on Jason Clarke's character and how he got involved with the Winchester family. But I think from there, once the story gets started, the synopsis for this: an eccentric firearm Harris believes she's haunted by the souls of people killed by Winchester repeating rifles. So once Jason Clarke, who plays a psychiatrist, moves into the Winchester household, it's just started getting really cliche from there. I think the script, even though the Spierigs did some work to punch it up, I just think the dialogue here is really stilted, and it just the movie stagnates very quickly. You would think having these scenes with Helen Mirren, an Oscar-winning actress, getting to act alongside Jason Clarke, there would be some really interesting drama there, especially because of the subject matter, considering it's focusing on the woman behind. Well, she didn't create the Winchester rifle, but one of the main founders of the Winchester, and just kind of the dramatic, like the tortured victim she is. I mean, you know what I'm saying. But yeah, I just the drama here just feels very stilted, and Helen Mirren doesn't really get a chance to do much of anything, to be honest. And it's a real shame. It's a waste of frankly her time and talents. And I would say the same about Jason Clarke. I think the movie does have some admirable intentions. It's trying to capture a sense of torment in these characters, and also kind of the fact that the sense of loss they have is kind of more haunting than any ghosts that's present in the house. But it's an interesting concept. It's just not one that's properly executed. Uh, Moving on to the scares. I'm not someone who really gets scared during horror movies personally. I don't know. You have to really shock me to make me feel something. So I wasn't expecting to be scared by this movie, but I was pretty surprised how poorly executed the jump scares are here. For a movie that's supposed to be more tame and old school, I get why you would include jump scares, but every single moment that's trying to scare feels so scheduled. You could almost set your time to when the sound will pop and expect the audience to jump. Like it just felt so contrived and lazy. And those are the last words you should be saying for a horror movie. For me personally, horror movies are like the ultimate canvas for directors to do something creative because you don't really need a big budget to make an effective horror movie. We've seen that several times throughout the years, probably most recently with Jordan Peele's Get Out. So the fact that they're the Spirit brothers are working in this really interesting atmosphere and this larger than life house, which was fairly decently replicated, aside from a few really bad CGI exterior shots that looked like my girlfriend said they looked like they were from a computer game from like the 2000s, and I agree with her there. The fact that you can't really draw any scares out or any tension, it's really noticeable, and I think that alongside the weak character development, the middle act of this movie is really falls flat. And I read some reviews on Letterboxd with people saying that they kind of fell asleep during this movie, and to be honest, it doesn't really surprise me. I hate to use the word I was bored when I'm doing movie reviews, but it, the movie quickly lost my interest. And it wasn't until it gets into its third act, which I think has some semi effective moments, that I was really able to gather my interest back. The particular shame for this movie for me is I see the promise there. I mean, the Spirit Brothers, while I don't think they execute the scares well, I think they create what is largely a pretty good looking movie, and especially considering its lower budget. And you also have two terrific actors along with Sarah Snook, who's been in a few other Spirit Brother films. It's just a waste, and it really is, because this is the kind of material that should be just a great mine for not only horror but also a dramatic potency. And I just think nothing really is there. It's a movie that you don't really feel anything while watching, other than the few moments where I laughed because this movie feels the need for every scene transition to have an exterior shot of the house, and it almost feels like a video game cutscene. It's like, wait a second, guys, the movie needs to pause and load the next segment. It was a kind of laughable, but that's a side note. As a whole, though, I think Winchester, it's not a terrible movie. It's nowhere near as bad as I think the Rotten Tomatoes score indicates. It's just a really dull and uninteresting one, and its attempts to scare fall incredibly flat. So I'll give the movie a 4.5 out of 10. Uh, Maybe rent it when it comes out, but definitely do not waste your time to go see this at the theater unless you do have Movie Pass, which I have and highly recommend, because it makes seeing movies like this a lot more palatable. Anyways, thank you for watching. I plan on doing reviews for the movies coming out this week. Also, maybe do a little indie reviews for the movies that came out last month, because there were a lot of indie movies that not a lot of people talked about, so I kind of want to give them a spotlight. But until then, thanks for watching. Please comment, subscribe, like, all that fun stuff, and hope to see you again.